You're standing inside the Minero, and the noise feels too big for the roof. Yellow shirts are everywhere. Flags shake. Your country believes the night is already written, because Brazil does not just host a World Cup. Brazil carries it like a birthright. Then the corner comes in. Thomas Müller is standing almost alone. One touch. One goal. And suddenly, the sound changes. This is July 8th, 2014, in Belo Horizonte. Brazil are playing Germany in a World Cup semi-final, at home, in front of a nation that has waited 64 years to repair the wound of 1950. But what happens next does not feel like a football match. It feels like a system failure. By the 29th minute, Germany lead 5-0. 5-0. How does that even happen? To understand why this match made Germany feel like the most feared team in World Cup history, you have to begin before the first whistle. You have to begin with fear itself. Brazil came into the tournament with history pressing against their shoulders. The 5 stars on the shirt were not just decorations. They were expectations. Pelé, Garrincha, Zico, Romario, Ronaldinho. Even when the team was imperfect, the shirt told you what Brazil were supposed to be. David Goldblatt, in The Ball is Round, writes about football as something bigger than a game, a place where nations tell stories about themselves. Brazil's story had always been beautiful. Skill, rhythm, imagination. The ball moved like music. But by 2014, the story was already under strain. This Brazil were not the Brazil of 1970. They were not a flowing orchestra of yellow shirts. They were a tense, emotional, hard-running team built by Luiz Felipe Scolari, the coach who had won the 2002 World Cup with power, discipline, and moments of genius. The 2014 version still had Neymar, but it depended on him so heavily that every attack seemed to ask the same question. Can he save you? Then Neymar was injured in the quarterfinal against Colombia. Then Thiago Silva, the captain and defensive organizer, was suspended. So you enter the semifinal without your brightest attacker and your calmest defender. But the stadium is full. The anthem is loud. The cameras are close. The tears are already visible before kickoff. Is that passion or is it pressure? Germany arrived differently. Not cold, not robotic, just clear. Joachim Löw's team had been building for years. After Germany's failure at Euro 2000, the country's football structure changed. Academies improved. Young players were developed more carefully. The national team became faster, more technical, more flexible. This was not an accident that appeared in 2014. This was a long project reaching its final form. Jonathan Wilson, in his writing on tactical evolution, often explains football history as a movement between space, structure, and pressing. Pressing means trying to win the ball back quickly instead of waiting deep near your own goal. Germany did not just have strong players. They had players who understood where the next pass would go before it happened. Philipp Lahm could read danger. Bastian Schweinsteiger could control tempo. Toni Kroos could pass through pressure as if the pitch were a map only he could see. Miroslav Klose did not look spectacular, but he knew the penalty area like a professional thief knows a locked door. And Thomas Müller was the strangest piece of all. He was not a classic winger, not a classic striker, not a classic midfielder. He was what Germans later called a Raumdeuter, a space interpreter. In plain English, that means he found empty pockets on the pitch before defenders realized those pockets existed. Brazil had emotion. Germany had timing. That difference became the match. In the 11th minute, Germany win a corner. Brazil's marking breaks. Müller drifts away at the far side of the box. Nobody follows tightly enough. The ball arrives. He finishes first time. 1-0. The goal is bad, but not fatal. You can recover from 1-0. Brazil have recovered from worse. The crowd tries to lift the team. The players try to run harder. David Luiz charges forward. Marcelo pushes high. The midfield stretches. And that is when the trap opens. Because Germany do not need chaos. They feed on it. The word transition sounds technical, but it is simple. It means the few seconds after the ball changes teams. You attack, you lose it, and suddenly the other side attacks before you are organized. In those seconds, football becomes brutally honest. It shows who is balanced and who is exposed. Brazil were exposed. In the 23rd minute, Germany moved the ball through the center. Müller touches it toward Klose. His first shot is saved. The rebound comes back. Klose scores. 2-0. With that goal, Klose moves past Ronaldo's World Cup mark and reaches 16 goals in the tournament's history. But inside the Minero, there is no time to process the record. There is barely time to breathe. 1 minute later, Lahm cuts the ball back from the right. Toni Kroos arrives at the edge of the box and strikes it cleanly. 3-0. You look at the scoreboard. You look again. It cannot be real. Then Fernandinho loses the ball almost immediately. Germany pounce. Cruz and Sammy Khedira exchange passes like training cones have replaced defenders. Cruz finishes again. 4-0. This is the moment the match stops feeling like sport and starts feeling like disbelief. Brazil are not losing a tactical battle anymore. They are losing their sense of reality. Every German pass seems to reveal another missing Brazilian player. Every Brazilian sprint seems to arrive half a second too late. The spaces are too big. The minds are too loud. Then comes the fifth. Khedira plays a 1-2 with Mesut Ozil and scores in the 29th minute. 5-0. 5 goals before half an hour. At a World Cup. Against Brazil. In Brazil. How do you even walk back to the center circle after that? Brian Glanville, who spent decades chronicling World Cup history, understood how certain matches become more than results. They become reference points. Hungary beating England 6-3 at Wembley in 1953 was not just one team beating another. It told the world that old football ideas had been surpassed. Brazil losing to Uruguay in 1950 was not just a final round defeat. It became a national wound. Brazil 1, Germany 7 became that kind of match. A scoreboard that turned into a historical sentence. But the counterintuitive truth is this. Germany did not become terrifying because they were cruel. They became terrifying because they did not seem surprised. Watch the goals again, and the most frightening thing is not the power. It is the calm. No wild celebrations after the third. No emotional explosion after the fourth. No panic in possession. No need to prove a point. Germany kept making the next correct decision. That is what scared the football world. A normal team gets excited at 3-0 in a World Cup semifinal. A normal team loses structure. A normal team starts shooting from impossible angles, chasing personal glory, feeling the electricity of the moment. Germany passed, moved, pressed, passed again. It was not revenge. It was process. And process is more frightening than passion when it works perfectly. At halftime, you imagine the Brazilian dressing room. Shirts hanging, boots on the floor, players staring at nothing. Scolari trying to speak, but what sentence repairs 5 goals in 29 minutes? What tactical adjustment changes a psychological collapse? You can say, defend deeper. You can say, keep the ball. You can say, restore pride. But the match has already entered another world. The second half begins with Brazil trying to attack. Manuel Neuer saves from Oscar. Then from Paulinho. The crowd wants one goal, one small piece of dignity, one sign that the shirt still contains something sacred. For a while, Germany slowed down. Then Andre Schürrle comes on. In the 69th minute, Lahm crosses low. Schürrle finishes. 6-0. In the 79th minute, Schürrle receives the ball on the left side of the area and smashes it in off the bar. 7-0. At this point, the stadium is no longer just quiet. It is stunned into a silence that has weight. Some fans cry. Some laugh because the brain does not know what else to do. Some stare at the pitch like they are watching a natural disaster in yellow and white. In the 90th minute, Oscar scores for Brazil. 7-1. There is no celebration that can fit the moment. The goal does not change the story. It only makes the score look even stranger, because it reminds you that Brazil are still there, still human, still playing, still unable to escape what has happened. FIFA's archive preserves the facts neatly. Germany beat Brazil 7-1 at the Estadio Mineirão. Müller, Klose, Cruz again, Khedira, Schürrle, Schürrle again. Oscar late. A semi-final. A route to the final. A few days later, Germany beat Argentina 1-0 in extra time, with Mario Götze scoring the winning goal. But archives cannot fully hold the feeling. They can record the goals. They cannot record the disbelief. Tim Vickery, who has spent years reporting on South American football, has often explained Brazilian football through its emotional relationship with beauty, pressure, and national identity. That night hurt because it did not just say Brazil had lost. It suggested Brazil had been left behind by the modern game. And that was the deepest cut. Germany looked like the future. Not because every team copied Germany exactly. Modern football never works that simply. But after 2014, the lesson became impossible to ignore. Talent was not enough. Passion was not enough. A famous shirt was not enough. You needed structure under emotion. You needed pressing without panic. You needed midfield control. You needed defenders who could pass, attackers who could defend, and a team that could change shape without losing its mind. That is why this match still echoes every weekend. When you watch a team press high after losing the ball, you are watching part of that DNA. When you see fullbacks become playmakers, midfielders rotate positions, and forwards hunt in packs, you are watching the same football truth Germany exposed in Belo Horizonte. The best teams do not only have stars, they have connections, they have spacing, they have rehearsed habits that survive pressure. Brazil had players who could do brilliant things. Germany had a team that made brilliant things feel automatic. That is why the match became frightening. Not because Germany scored 7 once, because for 20 minutes it looked like they could score whenever they chose. And yet, history is never that clean. Germany's aura did not last forever. 4 years later, they went out of the 2018 World Cup in the group stage. The machine broke. The fear faded. Football moved on, as it always does. But the Mineirão remained. It remained as a warning to every favorite, every host, every team that believes emotion can replace structure. It remained as a reminder that football can turn in minutes. Not slowly, not politely, all at once. One corner, one loose mark, one lost ball, one pass too many, one team still thinking, one team already drowning. So when people call Germany efficient, it is tempting to hear something boring. But on that night, efficiency was not boring. It was devastating. It was beautiful in a hard, merciless way. It turned the world's most romantic football nation into a team chasing shadows on its own stage. And if you are standing there in yellow, surrounded by noise that once felt too big for the roof, the most terrifying part is not the score. It is the realization that Germany are not playing faster than you. They are thinking faster than you. That is how a semifinal became a myth. That is how a scoreboard became a scar. That is how Germany became, for one night, the most feared team in World Cup history. You're still standing inside the Mineirão, but now the noise has a different name.